our agenda, of course, is to approve the minutes of the last meeting, and we have those in front of us. I have a motion to accept the minutes of the July 9th, 2020 meeting of the Code Enforcement Board. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion passed, accept the minutes. Next thing on our agenda is to hear citation 200167, a reference of 202 Birch Avenue. We have our code enforcement officer, Stephanie, up front. Stephanie, do you swear to affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Okay, in the packets I have given you, there was something I decided I wanted to back up with so I could show you how I got involved in this case. Back in March of 2019, this was the backyard for 202 Birch. There's a broken down car right here. There's car parts. There's a bunch of stuff back there. So I originally had sent out a notice of violation to the owner of the home, Thelma Smith, and to the residents. It is a rental home, regarding the junk in the backyard. The junk was cleaned up, so we moved on from there. The next communication I had was June 7th of 2019, and this is in your packet. I issued a notice of violation smart enough to work this. I issued a notice of violation for the maintenance and repair of the historic site. At this time, she was cited under, the notice of violation was written under the historic district ordinance as far as maintaining the property. We've got pictures inside there. There's the front of the house back in June. We also have the up along the roof line. You can see where the wood has completely rotted along the roof line. There are no gutters on this house. Also in that, this window here, which is facing the street, there is no glass in this pane. When these people moved into the house, the residents moved into this house, there was no glass, there was no screen, there was nothing. And so they went ahead and found a cheap little screen to at least stick there, but there was no glass in that window. Here was the side door. You cannot see this from the front of the house, but this was a side exit door. All along the bottom, you can see where it's rotted out. Another picture of some of the windows on the outside of the house where the trim in between the windows, the casing is completely rotted. And if you look really close, you can see that there's an opening in between the glass and the wood. It's not sealed shut. Another window picture. And then just another window picture to show how it's deteriorated. This window picture, you can see up at the top of the picture where someone has put like a false ceiling inside the house, and they've shoved blankets and stuff in as insulation in front of the window. July 11th, we sent a detailed notice of violation and hearing request for this property. Okay, I'll figure this out eventually. And in this, we detailed everything. Now, at this time, the tenants that were living there had called me in because there was all this maintenance that had to be done. And they were dealing with Miss Smith. She was not coming out making any repairs. The side door that I showed you that was rotting out at the bottom, they had animals that were coming in and out. So they put a board on the inside to close that to keep the animals. They would let her know about it. She was not doing any of the maintenance. They gave me permission to go inside the house and do a full inspection inside the house. So some of these issues are interior issues. The citation I wrote her today was just dealing with exterior issues, but that's what's all listed on here, is everything that was wrong with the house. It was a young couple. They had 2 young kids living there. We talked about the junk that had been in the backyard, the broken down car. They told me that when they moved into that house, all of that stuff was already there. That stuff did not belong to them. It was all in the yard when they moved in, but they at least cleaned it up and got rid of it. Went out on July 18th with Stan Klausing. He is with the Historic District Commission. He went through and gave more of a detailed description of what needs to be fixed on this house. These were his notes to give her an exact idea of what needs to be done. August 28th, none of the work had been completed, and a citation at that time was issued. She did not contest the citation, and she did not pay the citation. So we ended up placing a lien on the property in November. That was in the amount of $68. That's $55 for the fine and $13 for the lien fees. Fast forward a little bit to March. In March, I found out that she was attempting to rent this property to other people. So at this time, we posted the house is unsafe, do not enter or occupy until these things were repaired. And on this, you've got a copy of it in your packet. On this, we listed out all the things that needed to be repaired before she could allow someone to move into there. In May, I was called by a neighbor who said she was showing the house. I went out there, we took more pictures. Again, this is the north side of the house where all the soffits are completely rotted out. And this is the south side of the house where, again, none of the repairs have been made. Nothing has been fixed. Since the first citation had been issued, we had passed a new ordinance for property maintenance code. So I issued her another notice of violation under the new ordinance. So we used this as a first offense. We didn't bump it up to a second offense. I used it as a first offense. Cited her under the new property maintenance ordinance for the exterior structure. On 6/17, went out there. This is when I noticed that the placard on the front of the house was missing. She had taken the red thing off, even though it specifically said on there you could not remove that. And I showed that we were closing the vacant structure because of the hazards. At this time, there had been a storm that had come through, and you can see there is a tree limb that actually does go into the roof. That is not in any gutter. Again, there's no guttering on this house. It goes through the gutter, and again, there's the south side. You can see it just continues to rot, deteriorate. There's a picture of the side door. Kind of hard to tell on this screen, but at the bottom you can kind of see where, again, the wood is rotted out and animals were getting inside. Now, from the inside, they did put a board there to prevent that. From the outside, you can't tell that. Reposted it. Big letters. Big words. Reposted it. And on 6/17, we issued a citation for the exterior of the structure. Listed in here is the notices and order tampering with a posted placard. The citation did not cover that. The citation was just for the exterior structure. She had not made any of the repairs. When I went back out the next day, the side door, the glass had fallen in here, and somebody had posted some wood or something against there. Since that time, she has come out and she has had someone put a board over it, so that is boarded up. So we sent her out the citation. On 7/15, I received a notice from her. She wants to reschedule the board hearing. She says appointment because of health problems. Request to remove the $100 fine because I have listed the house for sale, cleaned, painted, and other something, I can't read what it says, and cut and trimmed. So at that time, we went ahead, we changed the board hearing for her. We sent her another notice for today. Mailed that first class mail, and I mailed it certified mail. She called and told me she was not going to be able to make it. I told her we had to have that in writing. The next letter is dated August 7th. She said because of the coronavirus, she's not able to attend the code enforcement board hearing. Her doctor has instructed her to stay home. Presently, she is 89 years of age and in poor health. Understand that I have attempted to sell this house 3 times. It is presently under contract. As I have attempted to sell this property for a reduced price, I hope you will deal with my buyer in the future. Please remove the fine. Records show that I have worked hard to care for and to sell this property as I am not able to maintain it. Thanks for your help and understanding. Now, several times, and I don't have notes on that here, but several times she has called me. She calls me repeatedly on the phone to complain about the fact that she's trying to sell this house. She's working on it. She's had people show up, contractors show up over there to mow the grass, contractors that are going to do the work. Once they get in there, they see how much work is going to take place and nobody ever comes back. So based on this letter, I hand delivered her a notice on Monday. Understand with the whole coronavirus thing going on, I understand that she doesn't feel like she could be there. We set it up so that she could telephone in to this meeting. That way she could still have her voice heard. We have it pulled up on the computer over here, and she has not at any point yet logged in. Today I received a notice from her in the mail. I think I gave mine away. She has returned the notice I gave her on Monday with some notes on it. It says, answer by Thelma Smith, not true. One door needs replacement. I will move into the house if my contract fails. I cannot hear on the phone. Records show I have contracted to sell this house 3 times, presently on contract. Further, you and your citations have abused me. I am sick and will charge you. Since I have been dealing with Miss Smith, there are 3 different times that she has had a contract to sell this house. The first was an individual who was doing this on his own. He came in to get some estimates on how much the repairs were going to cost, decided it was too much, he walked away. The second company that has tried to purchase this from her found out that what happened was about 10 years ago, Miss Smith put a contract for deed on this house for the tenants that lived there at that time. That contract for deed, it's kind of like a lien on the property. Until she gets that lien, like a quit claim deed signed off on, she can't sell this property. This gentleman moved to Wyoming 10 years ago, and he's homeless and nobody can find him. So they decided they weren't willing to wait around until she could figure this all out, and she has made no attempts to figure it out, and so they have left. This company that she's dealing with now is Craven Built Homes. They are trying very, very hard to help her work through this to get this figured out. Again, the gentleman that she has the contract with is homeless, and they're saying without a signature from him releasing him from this house, they can't sell the house to him. I went out today and took pictures so you could see what work Miss Smith has done to the house. So here is the front of the house. July 4th weekend, she went out and she painted. She painted that little section dark blue, and she hasn't been back to paint since then. Here's another picture of the north side of the house. If you look up in the tree line, you can kind of see, again, where the soffit is rotted out. Nothing has been repaired there. This is the south side of the house again. There is that tree branch that's still stuck in the roof, and the soffit and the above roof line, it still just continues to rot. Here's a close-up picture of her painting job and her branch sticking out of the roof. And if you look on this picture, if you see back where those boards are that are not painted, that is that side doorway that was rotted away where animals were getting in underneath, that is now boarded up. Now, this last picture here, this is a picture of the back of the house. And it just needs, painted. It's the same condition as the front of the house. So I have continued to work with her since last year on trying to get things repaired. She has not made any effort. And that's where it stands.
Do you have any witnesses?
I did not bring it.
Today?
No.
Any witnesses for
It does not look like
law
anybody
enforcement
showed up.
officers? Does not appear that there are.
Stephanie, for the record, has she ever requested a hearing?
She has not. She has not requested a hearing. The only thing she has requested is that we remove the citation. She doesn't feel like she should have to pay it, but she has never requested a hearing.
So the hearings that we see in here, they have been out of a courtesy?
They have, out of a courtesy, I have extended the courtesy, trying to give her that option.
Okay. So we obviously do not have a respondent present today. And all of the information that you've supplied to us has continued for several years, since last year.
I can attest,
sometime.
yes, I can attest that it's been since last year. I've been on this job for 2.5 years now, and so I have been dealing with it since I have been here, yes.
We've never seen the respondent in person, other than the time that you delivered the one citation
I
to
have
her.
actually seen her before then. She has come into the office. When I posted the notice that nobody could move into the house, the second red notice, she did show up at the office at City Hall with 2 people that were going to come and fix up the house. She seems very spry. She says she's 89 years old. I would never guess that. She's in very good health. Looking at her, she moved around just fine. She went out to the house. The neighbors have seen her out there cleaning up things in the yard. The neighbors saw her out there painting. So she gets around pretty well. When I saw her, when I went to deliver her letter on Monday, she was out in her yard with some trimmers, trimming some bushes and moving around just fine.
All righty. I think we've got sufficient evidence that, everything that Stephanie has presented to us is in fact the truth. All the pictures, the no attempts whatsoever, other than a little bit of painting that's gone on. I know I drove by the house, just driving by it, and I can confirm I didn't get out and walk all up around it, but I can see all of this that's been here. To me, it sounds as if there's been ample opportunity to Mrs. Smith to respond for hearings, to make repairs, and so forth. Obviously, she never did sign on the Zoom setup here, so I believe, Mike, you were reading in there somewhere about that the one section that by not responding to the hearings and all that, if you can find that section, what was it, 155?
I'll find it real quick. Yeah, section 35.54 under hearing. Any person who fails to appear at the time and place set for the hearing shall be deemed to have waived the right to a hearing to contest the citation, and a determination by the Code Enforcement Board that a violation was committed shall be final. So it would seem that by her not appearing, this board can uphold the violations and the citations and move to the next phase of whatever penalty
Right,
we
right.
want to impose.
Do you have any additional statements that you would like to make, Stephanie, or in the closing statement?
The only thing I can think of, and I don't know if because I don't have the witnesses here to prove that, what happened is when she rents this out to houses, it's kind of like a rent-to-own situation. She rents it to people with the understanding that they're gonna come in and make these repairs, and then she'll sell it to them. That's how the contract for deed happened. But that's obviously not the case, and I would request that we continue to keep the house in the condemned state that it's in, so that she cannot rent this out until repairs are made, or until the house is sold.
Well, and under Property Maintenance Code 1076, it's unlawful for her to sell the house unless the buyer is aware
Yes,
and agrees in writing to comply with all of the
yes,
citations and orders to repair.
and that's why I have talked with all three of the buyers, and I'm in good communication with the current, because they are really trying hard to push through and find this homeless guy to get him to sign off on this, because they are really trying hard to buy the house. They want it nice and fixed up, and they are very well aware of all of the issues.
Is that company, the last one you mentioned, are they a local?
Craven, they are not local. They've got local people here, but it's a national company.
Got you. Okay.
And there is already a lien on the property,
Yes, there is already a lien for the prior citation that I issued.
the $68 one?
Yes.
What was that for a violation of?
It was property maintenance issues that were issued under the historic district guidelines as far as
Failure
maintaining,
to obtain a certificate of appropriateness.
for failing to maintain historic property.
Okay. What about in this July 11th letter you wrote, in which you cited numerous violations of sections 155.25, specifically detailing the ordinances that were in violation? Have those been, do all those violations still exist?
Yes, and that is July of 2019. Yes, all of those violations still exist.
So what is the ordinance that you're saying has been violated today?
Right now, I cited her under the new property maintenance ordinance that was passed in November.
Okay, that's about 200 pages long. Which one is it?
For the exterior, it is noted on there as being, hold on.
Current citation dated.
It was 108,
17?
304.1. The exterior of a structure shall be maintained in good repair, structurally sound and sanitary, so as not to pose a threat to the public health, safety, or welfare.
My last question is, would the memorandum of Stan Clausing on July 18th, if she complied with those requirements, would that satisfy compliance with the ordinance that you say is, or alleging is she's violated today?
Yes, it would.
Okay. No further questions?
Thank you.
So,
I'm personally of the opinion that code enforcement officer has bent over backwards and been very generous in the ways that they've dealt with Ms. Smith, both in notices of violations, and citations. I personally feel from reading through and hearing the evidence that Ms. Smith has decided to continue to kick the can down the road. And so, while I don't like being a punitive person, sometimes it takes a little bit of teeth in an action to get somebody's attention. I would be inclined to look into the penalty phase or the penalty that might get her attention. And I'm not talking about thousands and thousands of dollars necessarily, but these could easily be second and third citations, in my opinion. It seems like it's a first on one issue, a first on a different issue, a benefit of the doubt, because we're now on what's the new code?
Property management code,
maintenance.
maintenance code.
But this says that could have easily been, because it was adopted in city council, it could have been a continuation. It didn't have to be treated as unique and new. So to me, there's a long history, and by Ms. Smith's failure to appear, even being threatening in the letters, doesn't bode well in my opinion. So I would recommend as a board, we look into whatever penalty phase that might, like I say, have a little bit more teeth to it, and still give her a chance to make the repairs. If that does get her attention and she does make the repairs, then, I don't know, are we allowed to circle back and say, if you do it by a certain date, we'll cut that in half? I'd have to look to see what our options are there.
Well, certainly in the final order that we could issue a final order today, and that verbiage at the bottom of it does indicate such, I believe. Is that correct, Stephanie? Because we have right in here coming to
We did that, yeah.
that date. Continuing fines and administrative costs will be waived.
I apologize. Here's the forms that this hearing, and the final orders on the back.
All right, so we've heard from everybody present. Mrs. Smith elected to waive her right to show up to the hearing today, and we have all the evidence supporting code enforcement officers' citation here that we have. I would like to see us go ahead and move with a final order as written, and to levy a fine of $100. And as the final order would say at the bottom, that Mrs. Smith is ordered to bring the property into compliance on or before. We can set a date for that. And once the repairs are made and it's satisfaction of the code enforcement officer, the continuing violation and administrative costs will be waived. Otherwise, she could be fined up to $100 per day, per diem. As far as setting a date for compliance with this, do we read Beach 30 days or 14 days?
What, to come into compliance?
Yes.
I
Or,
think that would be a little bit unrealistic. I think we gave Mr. Williams 60 days.
oh, that's right. I'm
Last-
sorry. I'm
last
sorry. I was
month.
thinking about something else. Correct.
I think it would be helpful to give her some guidance as to what acts, like a punch list of what acts she has to take to become in compliance, which is why I asked the question about whether this memorandum of Stan Lousing was a satisfactory punch list, that if she did all this, that the code enforcement officer, if satisfied that it was complied, would concur that it was, she was in compliance.
Yes, sir.
I mean, there's quite a lot on here to do for 60 days, but it is, we don't want to let it get into the winter, then you have another whole season of degradation and
Right, right.
rotting.
Stephanie, she received that letter from the exterior walk around and all with all those items, correct? Gotcha. Okay. What if we go ahead and issue a final order, the $100 fine, and give her, let's see, this is August the 13th, so September, October, November. Give her 90 days? Or do you believe that that's,
Well, you can give her a length of time, which the code enforcement officer can always extend it, You could give her a certain amount of time, if there's reason to believe that she's making a good faith effort to complete it, then, she can have all the time, not all the time, but she can have as much time as is reasonably necessary. But if no effort has been made, there's no reason to go into the winter, and then
Right.
have a second hearing. In the second hearing, your order might state that the per diem fine will be waived if it's completed within 60 days. Otherwise, the per diem fine will become retroactive for those, so that between now and 60 days from now, it could be another $6,000. And that can have some influence.
gotcha.
Because if nothing is done between now and then it's an ongoing per diem $100 a day violation. As long as it's continuing violation.
All right. Mike, do you agree on this then, that we issue a $100 fine and we'll issue the final order just as it reads here? All right.
And then can we set a date, can we say, the final order of this board is that you are in violation, the $100 fine is applicable? Because our goal is also to have the property taken care of.
That's the main goal, yeah.
And 60 days to adhere to the June or July 2019, 9 items on the punch list
Correct.
within 60 days. Do we then, in the final order, set a date for if they either will and will be generous in her efforts to comply, or she won't, And do we then say a hearing date of, what's today, August 13th?
13th.
And if October 13th comes, we set a hearing date and then deal with
Yeah.
nothing's still been done, in a second hearing on the same property, and maybe look at some of the more maximum kinds of.
Correct, and there's nothing to say you couldn't set this for a status hearing in 30 days to see,
Okay.
to see if
For progress.
any efforts has been made.
Because we're going to meet monthly, right? That can be an item on the agenda
Right, that
for
would be
202
the, you know,
Birch, a status.
That's what they do in Carroll County. They have status of all the matters that are in enforcement mode. They have a status hearing each month as to what's happened, you know? And at some point, you know, the city has the power to do abatement. I mean, to make corrections that the owner refuses to do, or to simply condemn the property. But because this is in the historical district, there are other extraordinary measures required to try to preserve historic properties. And it's a very gray area as to who is responsible for the payment of that restoration, whether it's the future buyer or the current buyer, or if the city makes the repairs, then they can place a lien on the property for the cost to make the repairs. But if everybody could get their house fixed up for free, you know, that would be nice, as long as there's not a superior mortgage that eats up all the equity, so that the lien doesn't get paid at the end, if you know what I mean. Because these fix-up liens don't take as much priority as tax liens or mortgages. So, yeah, a decent fine and a remedial order, with the caveat that the per diem, I guess you could say the code board will reserve on the question of continuing fine until such later date, so that you can, you know,
Leave that part open.
in 60 days, or, you know, decide whether you want to issue a continuing fine per diem basis, which could be up to $100 a day.
So having said all that, I'd be inclined to move that the final order include, we're upholding the citation issued for the $100 first offense, that we grant 60 days to begin action on the punch list that you can reference back to the Historical Society from a year ago. So that'd be a second item on the final order. A third item is we'll have in our September meeting, would you call it a progress or a status?
Status hearing.
A status hearing, and Stephanie can present, here's what's happened between today, August 13th, and September, whatever day our meeting is. And then in the October meeting, we'd reserve the right to, I don't know, reopen, because we're not really closing it, but reserve the right to revisit in the event that nothing's being done, what additional penalties might be applied at that point.
Now, did you mean to 60 days to begin repairs, or to complete repairs? Or 30 days to begin repairs, and then
Well, the
60
30-day would be status, just to see
Okay.
that something's being done.
Okay,
60 days, I mean, it could be a secondary, another status, but we do need to put some kind of finality on.
Because our next meeting is, all right, if you push out 30 days for a status check, is September 10th. Technically, that's a little less than 30 days. Our next meeting, approximately 60 days, is going to be October the 8th. For that, are we going to give it physical 30, 60 days like that, or give dates to see some of this happen?
Well, if we know the dates of the meetings, we can use those specific
Yeah.
dates. So it's always the second
Always second Thursday
second
of the
Thursday
month.
of each
Yeah,
month. So I would
right.
put this specific date, a status report on the date of September, Thursday, September,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, on my calendar,
September the 10th,
10th.
yeah. And then another one on September the 8th.
October.
I'm sorry, October the 8th. What was the first thing that you had mentioned, though? We had first, second.
I mean, just to let her know that we are in agreement that the
Oh, gotcha.
citation does
Yeah,
stand and the $100
per diem.
amount due is
Mm-hmm.
due, because she's asking to waive it. We're respectfully declining her.
Right, right, okay,
Um,
okay. So you're making that motion now?
Yes.
Okay.
Was that concise at all?
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
good.
Did you get any of that?
She's got it.
She's a trained professional, so
Yes,
she's got it
yes,
all.
there you go, okay. So, the decision has been made then to deny Mrs. Smith's request for removal of the fines and for any continuance to get this done. We're going to make the the final order with the $100 first notice fine. That will be the second part of it is a status check on by our September 10th meeting to, come into compliance or to at least show a good faith effort that some of the bullet points from the previous letter, I forget whatever that date was, where Mr. Clausen had gone out there, July the 18th.
The 9 items.
Right. And then the third point would be we'll do another status check on October the 8th for that. Is that all understand?
What status would you expect it to be in by?
I would
October?
say a
Be in
good faith-
Substantial compliance?
No, not with it. I don't think so. Not substantial compliance, but at least a portion, a third of that list, something going on, some sort of activity going on with contractors. I don't believe that Mrs. Smith is probably capable nor qualified to do work there. And so it's going to take a contractor to do this. I don't know exactly how many.
It's not up to us to determine how she does it. It's up to us to determine that she does it.
Right,
I mean,
right.
if she calls family and friends and church or whatever, and they get
Mm-hmm.
5 of the 9 things done by October 8th,
Mm-hmm.
and then our meeting, we're like, way to go, keep going, you're on the right
Right,
track. We're
right,
gonna
right.
not issue a second or a third or
Mm-hmm.
because I want to lean toward grace, but my understanding is this is years in the making. $100 may or may not light a fire under her.
Yeah.
But to say in 30 days, we're going to check, and in 60 days, we want to see 5 of these 9 things completed, checked off, because
Right.
if 0 is done, then we need to be able to say in October, okay, nothing's been done, you still haven't come, or if you even had come, we need to get your attention somehow. There's some pretty stout penalties in here for somebody that
Right,
just
right.
completely ignores
Mm-hmm.
the ordinances in our city, so.
So can part of that third point be the check in October the 8th, be that if we have not seen at least 5 of the 9 items completed, then the $100 fine would end up being a per diem, $100 per day per diem, going back to this date. And of course, then that gets into a great deal more money. If everything is done by October the 8th, then, we waive it all. We'll waive all of those items.
I'd put that what happens if you don't.
Okay.
She knows now, she owes 100, she has 30 days to start getting some stuff, she has 60 days to get 5 of the 9, and in October, if none of that has been done, then the penalty of whatever it is in here, we have to be sure before you write your final $100 per day, effective October 1st, 2020, will be enforced, whatever we're allowed to do. Because then she'll know on August, whatever today is, wow, I owe 100, I've got to
Right.
get this stuff done.
It
and
could
it's
be
gonna
a lot
cost- and
more.
she'll know the exact amount of how much it will cost. I don't want that to be a surprise in October of just how substantial this
Right.
will get. I'd rather her know now, I've got 60 days to make an effort, and if I do, I'm in good shape. If I don't, this is gonna cost, and she can get her calculator out and
Right,
figure
right.
out it's gonna
Okay.
be substantial.
I think we're in agreement on all that then, so, we had the motion, been seconded. Now we need to vote on that, so, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. We still never did get, Ms. Smith on Zoom. Okay, all righty. Then the final order's been issued with those items on it. We do also have any, the next part of the agenda, any old business that we have to take care of? Any new business?
Well, just an update on revision of the code enforcement ordinance. So the intention, right now, the code enforcement ordinance is in section 35, I believe it's 3505 or something like that, but it is, we're gonna repeal that and that's, recreate the code enforcement, adopt a state code enforcement statute, which is, there's been substantial changes since our code board was created in, I think, 2014. There was a major revision to the Code Enforcement Board Act in 2016. One of which has the appeal process is different, in that the appeal process is it's a process called where you start over from beginning. So if you go to district court, you have a whole new trial. It's not based on error or abuse at the administrative level. It's based on what they call a trial de novo. It's like all new trial. So that's a difference. That's one of the changes. But other than that, because there's so many fine details in the code enforcement process, and because it's a quasi-judicial, quasi-civil, quasi-criminal creature. And so there's been a lot of litigation over this, so that we're just gonna go with the KRS version of it, pretty much verbatim. And so that shouldn't be too much longer. Trey Kramer is the head of that committee, and we're meeting again in next week.
Sounds good.
Hope to have a first reading at the next council meeting, and then the second reading after that. And we should distribute a copy of it to y'all to take a look at and give us your input.
All righty.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Being no other business? Go ahead, sir.
So, if you all know Darrell Townsend, our code enforcement officer for Oldham County, he passed away on Monday. So his, what's it called before the funeral?
It's celebration of life.
Visitation will be tomorrow,
Oh, yeah,
4 to 8.
visitation.
Yeah, 4 to 8 at Hetty Radcliffe Funeral Home. Then the funeral is Saturday at 11.
Thank you
all
very
right.
much. Yeah, yeah. Darrell was a very, very good guy.
He was.
Very, very. Gone way too soon, so. Need no further business? Meeting is adjourned.
All right, you guys done good.
Well, it's probably easier to do it in front of a plan. I got a question for you about easements, and access easements. If they, so it's with that Speedway project?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, so, for short,
You what?
adjacent property owner who uses
No, he
easement.
went in and